Welcome to the show and Happy New Year. We have a great show planned for you here for our first one of 2020. Later on, I'll have with me Major Lewis Patrick, who is the Executive Director and Pastor for the Belmont County Salvation Army. We're talking all about what the Salvation Army does, not only at Christmas time, but year-round, which a lot of people don't know about. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. I want to start off talking a little bit about the political season, especially here in West Virginia. We're in January now, so that means people will be filing for office that haven't already done so. End of the month is the filing deadline, and the primary is now just a few months away in May. So being a general election year where the entire well, first of all, let's just talk about this: the entire Board of Works, meaning the governor, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Agriculture, all those things. Excuse me, Commissioner of Agriculture. All those different things are up. Attorney General here in West Virginia, but also, of course, the entire House, like always, half of the Senate. We've got some Ohio County Board of Education seats that are up. We've got all these different races that we'll be keeping an eye on. So January is a very important month because that is when people have to decide, am I going to run? And they have to put their name on that piece of paper saying, yes, I am running for office. And already a lot of people that are already throwing their hat into the ring for these various races, both statewide and locally. Seeing some people announcing for Board of Education here in the last few days, seeing some people announcing that they're going to be running for City Council, Mayor. So it's going to be interesting. Our entire City Council and Mayor here in Wheeling up for re-election if they so choose. So a lot of things to keep an eye on. So we will continue to do that. I don't want to talk too much about it now because the field's not really set, so to speak. Once the entire field gets set, maybe we'll address some of it a little bit more, break it down, maybe have some folks on to talk about it. But January, again, very important months. We'll keep an eye on that. Here's a legal tip. And this is an interesting one that I hadn't really considered until this week. When you date a legal document, typically you'll write, say, for example, last month, you would have written 12/15/19 to denote December 15th of 2019. If you're to do that now and to write 1/5/20, that could be an issue for you. You may say, why? This is 2020. The reason for that is this entire century starts with 20. So at the end there for the year, if you put 20 and some other person after you signed it wants to try to pull a fast one, they could write in there 19 after the numbers 20 to look like it was signed in 2019. So if you really want to protect yourself and be completely safe, you need to write out 2020 and not just 20 to keep someone from putting an 18 after it or a 19 to look like you had done something a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. So be very cautious about that. I'm not sure it'll come up a lot. I'm not sure that it'll be an issue, but if you want to completely and fully protect yourself on legal documents, not a bad idea to write out the full year of 2020 during the course of this year. Once we get to 2021, not an issue again because you can write 21 and people will know that 2,100 whatever hasn't happened yet. So not so much an issue there. But for this particular year, just a little bit of an anomaly with the way the calendar works. So a little legal tip there. Give you a quote here as well, and this one comes from Benjamin Franklin. I've used some quotes from Benjamin Franklin over the years. Always find some good ones from people around that Revolutionary War time period, the founding of our country. Just some great quotes there. And this one is about the new year, so I thought it would be particularly applicable this week. Benjamin Franklin said, "Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man." The reason I like that is that, we've all got our vices. I certainly have them, and it talks about being at war with your vices. And if you can constantly focus on saying, I'm going to try to overcome the things that I know are a challenge for me or a struggle or things that are problems for me, that's certainly a good notion and good thought to have. At peace with your neighbors, if you can have peace, and it doesn't literally mean your next door neighbor. I think it means community at large. I think it means people, humankind. But if you can be at peace with your neighbors, a lot of good can come from that. And then let every new year find you a better man. People make New Year's resolutions all the time. My question is, how many times do you go back and look at them and say, April, May, June, October, November, make all these resolutions in January, but oftentimes don't refer back to them to see how we're doing. And that was one of the things that I think is that comes from this, every year, new year, find you a better man. If you want to make resolutions, great, but then you have to follow through on them. In order to do that, you kind of have to look back on them. So I think it's a good idea to write them down, not just to make a New Year's resolution and say it. And it's good to break it down into categories. This is something my dad always told me. Learned a lot from him. And, you know, he would say, break it down, you know, in terms of personal life, professional life, spiritual life. And that was always a big one for him is, you know, your spiritual life, you need to make some resolutions there as well. But if you can do all those things and break it down into categories, write it on a piece of paper, then put it somewhere where you can see it often. Maybe keep it in your wallet so you can pull it out. Maybe put it on, you know, the bathroom counter or in the nightstand next to the bed. So you can take a look at it periodically. Maybe the first of each month is a good time to do it. Instead of just making resolutions on January 1st, February 1st comes, look back at them March 1st. There's nothing to say that you can't revise them as the year goes on. I think it's always a good idea to review and revise any goals that you have to say, how am I doing and do I need to revise this, because maybe you can do even better than you thought, or maybe you know you're not going to quite get there, so let's make it a little bit more realistic. Maybe this was an unrealistic goal. So certainly something to do, but you know, every new year find you a better man. If you can become a better man or woman, whichever it may be, each year, then I think you're making some progress in life toward the ultimate goal. So just a thought there, a great quote from Benjamin Franklin. We need to take a break, but when we come back, I'll have with me Major Lewis Patrick. Will be talking all about the Salvation Army. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
I'll tell you, I was getting ready to shave, and then the Mountaineer highlights came on, and I forgot all about the water. And then, boom, there's water coming through the ceiling. And I tell you what, I was going to shave, but now I'm swimming. Please, Glenn, please, can you help me?
We'll send a crew immediately.
When disaster strikes the Wolfman, I call the restoration company that the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and you should too. Boom!
Sunset Motors continues to be the 2019 Ohio Valley leader in Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and Dodge sales. Now get employee pricing plus on 2020 models at the Big Finish event. Get a Ram 4x4 for just $28,791, or lease a Bighorn for just $299 per month. Lease a new Compass Latitude for $279 per month, or a Cherokee Latitude Plus for just $289 per month, or an all-new Gladiator Sport.
You can love when you drive at Sunset.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's no different. I have with me Major Lewis Patrick, who is the Executive Director and Pastor of the Belmont County Salvation Army. Thanks for being here, Major.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Salvation Army, you know, the time of year has just passed when most people see the visible presence of the Salvation Army with people ringing the bells at the various stores and things like that. But the Salvation Army does so much year-round and is so important to the local community year-round that people may not realize that.
You're correct. We have a huge social service programming, as well as we have a ministry that we do from our location, which also helps people.
Now, you're the Executive Director and Pastor of the Belmont County Salvation Army, and a lot of folks may not even know where you're located in Belmont County.
We're located in Blair, Ohio.
Okay. And how long have you been with the Salvation Army?
Well, I've been with them longer, but I've been an officer for 23 years.
And what all does that entail, being the Executive Director and Pastor?
Well, first we have to go to a seminary and we get ordained. After we get ordained, we're sent out and we're put in charge of different locations. Now every location will be a little bit different. Not every location is as busy, and then there are some that are busier than the Belmont County Salvation Army.
Let's talk about the scope of services that you provide, because you know, some people may be familiar as a place that, hey, you can go drop off some clothes to the Salvation Army to donate clothes, but they may not know what types of services the Salvation Army provides to those in need.
Actually, one of my favorite stories is I was asking kids at a grade school, what does the Salvation Army do? And they said, well, they save clothes. And we do. But what we really do is this. We help people during some of their hardest times. And we just help them, give them a hand to say, here, this is what we want to do for you. And what we have at our particular Salvation Army is we hand out food 6 days a week. We also have a 40-bed shelter, which is active all the time. Matter of fact, during Christmas, we had 8 children in that shelter. Oh, wow. And we went down to our chapel where our beautiful trees were, and we had gifts underneath there. So on Christmas morning, they woke up to a nice time there as well. And again, we're dealing more with their Christmas, but we have them all year round. So we celebrate birthdays with them. We celebrate different things in their lives, such as graduations. We've had kids graduate from high school that were in our shelter during that period of time. There's so much that we do on a regular basis.
Now, I presume with the shelter, if children are there, they have to be there with a parent.
Absolutely.
And, you know, what qualifies someone to be able to come and stay at the shelter?
Well, they need a picture ID usually and a birth certificate, but other than that, as long as they're homeless and they're standing in front of me and we have room, they come in.
Now, you mentioned the shelter, and it kind of operates year-round. You said 40 beds. Is that typically filled, or you know, what type of availability do you usually have?
We've been filled, and then it goes down as we find housing. So a few days during the time period in between people find housing and new people come in, there might be a small amount that'll be in there, but we had over 30 people during Christmas in our shelter.
Now, if someone is living in the shelter, do they stay there during the day too, or is it just for the nighttime?
Well, this is a Belmont County only, so I want to tell you this. We do allow them to stay in the shelter to be able to, some of them are senior citizens, some are families with children. It's hard for me to throw them out in sub-degree weather or in too hot of weather out there, so we try to keep them in. We're also a cooling station and a warming station, so to kick them out during the day would be a little bit contradictory to who we are.
You mentioned also about distributing food and serving food to folks. I think you said, did you say 6 days a week?
6 days a week, that's
so
correct.
When does that happen? Is that a certain time of day, or and what days does it happen?
Well, Monday through Friday we have an emergency food pantry, which people come in and we give them emergency food help. Then on every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, we have a truck come in loaded with stuff, and we put it out at the 315 37th Street location, and we give out food there. And then every Wednesday, we work with the Mid-Ohio Food Bank, and they give us a truckload of food that we give out to over 100 families, between 100 and 150 families per week go through that program at that location.
Is there a certain time or hours that people need to come if they are in need?
Monday through Friday, we like it to be between 9 and 4. We do have some evening hours because we do have some evening times. Just call and let us know on that. And then we also have on Tuesday and Thursday, it's between about 1 and 3 o'clock. We give out food off the truck. And then on Wednesdays, I know I'm giving a lot of information,
No, that's okay.
but on Wednesdays, they come down around 10 until noon, and we give the food out to approximately, like I said, between 100 and 150 families per week just on that one program.
Do they have to demonstrate any type of need in order to receive the food?
They fill out an application, and after they fill the application out, after that, they're registered with us and the Mid-Ohio Food Bank, and what we do is we just process it through that way.
Now, do you actually serve meals also, or is it just a distribution of food that they can take and prepare somewhere else?
It's good you asked that question. We have a thing called Boost Bistro. Boost Bistro is one of our newest programs, just started in April. It's a different kind of soup kitchen. We do it twice a month. It's 2 orders. So when you come in, you get greeted by a host or hostess. They take your name. Then we seat you with a waitress, and then you're able to order off a menu. Off that menu, at the end of the time period, we say goodbye to you. There's no payment, but it's like you were just at a restaurant. And everything, our ladies that cook that meal, is always homemade and always amazing and always huge portions.
You referred to it as Booth's Bistro.
Yeah.
Why Booth's Bistro?
William Booth founded the Salvation Army in 1865, and it's after his family. If you go in and you'll look at all the pictures on the walls and all the different things we have in there, it's historical Booth, William Booth, Catherine Booth, and his 8 children are on that wall, and you can look around and you can see all the different things. So we named it Booth's Bistro.
We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking with Major Patrick all about ways that you perhaps can help the Salvation Army. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Tractor trailers are some of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. There are federal rules for load sizes, driver's hours, and maintenance for a reason. When big rigs don't follow these rules, entire families can be torn apart. We have the talent and the resources to take on these large companies. Hopefully, through our work, families are being helped and trucking companies are getting the message about safety. Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Hi, Banks did great today. He looks great after his spa day.
For being such a good boy, we'll take these 2.
Great.
Thanks to my free Kasasa cashback checking account from Belmont Savings Bank, My Kasasa Cash is paying for my dog's treats.
Kasasa pays you cash back on everyday debit card purchases, plus refunds on ATM withdrawal fees nationwide. Open your account today at Belmont Savings Bank to take back banking and enjoy monthly cash rewards with Kasasa.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest this week, Major Lewis Patrick, who's the Executive Director and Pastor of the Salvation Army of Belmont County. And, you know, Major, during the break you were mentioned that, you know, there's also a truck in the event of emergencies in the local community. Tell me a little bit more about that.
We have an emergency disaster truck, and we respond every time we're called by 911 or the emergency services in Belmont County. We go out to fires and floods and accidents. And matter of fact, last year when there were 2 drownings in Belmont County, one out at the Country Club Lake and one at the one of the other the forest. One of the other lakes we went to there, and we were part of that program.
So when the emergency vehicle goes out, what type of services do you provide, or what type of assistance?
We provide services to the families as well as to the EDS workers.
Oh, okay. Now, let's talk about ways people can help the Belmont County Salvation Army. What type of help do you need in terms of whether it be financial or volunteer help or otherwise?
We love volunteer help. That's one of our favorite things. And that would be great if someone came down and they had skills, different types of skills, especially if you have specialty skills. Nursing, we send kids to camp every year. They need to get physicals. We usually work with Southeast, but they're the stragglers that still need to get physicals and stuff like that. We also have need for any other type of labor, such as contractors and stuff like that. Always could use help. We need clerical. We have a lot of work that we have to do that way. We have warehouse work where we, the clothes that we do not give away or sell, we bail up and we send them off to a company and we sell them to them. And we always can use help bailing or doing stuff like that. So there's a lot of different areas. There's cooking. There's so many different ways people can volunteer. And of course, I hate to say this just coming off Christmas, but financially we can always use help. This year was a little bit harder due to the seasonal, where the season began and ended. We had less days, and we can always use help financially as well.
You mentioned, you know, either giving away or selling clothes, and you know, there's been a lot of talk. And I think sometimes people confuse clothes that they give the Salvation Army versus clothes that they give to Goodwill, and there's a big difference, you know, in terms of how those things are handled. Can you explain that a little bit?
First of all, I like Goodwill, so I want to make sure we say that off the bat. But they are a for-profit organization, and we are a non-profit organization. That's the first thing we need to remember. And the second thing is that the money that we make from the clothes that we do sell goes right back into the services that we provide. So if we sell something for $1, that dollar is going back to help people within the community. And sometimes it's easy to get rid of an old pair of jeans that we can sell for $2 or $3 and then giving us $2 or $3 out of your pocket. So that helps us just as much. Now we sell them to companies, big companies, and we bail the ones that we don't sell, and we are able to make money off of that as well. So no matter what you give us, we can pretty much use in a recycle level.
Even though the Christmas season just finished up, or is finishing up, I want to talk about the people that are all over we see ringing the bells. I mean, where do all these folks come from? I mean, you see ringing the bells at the different stores, whether it be at a local grocery store or at a big chain, that type of thing.
Every one of the ones in Belmont County are volunteers. They come in and they help us. They're amazing people. They're people that I love because they help us raise the monies we need to fight the fight against hunger and homelessness. They are the ammunition. They get the ammunition we need to do the tasks that we need to do every single day. These people are out there sometimes 8 and 10 hours a day just helping us do what we need to do. One thing we do need to get better at with the Salvation Army is service groups coming out. We would love to have more of the service groups in our area, Elks Club, Moose Club, all those different places. If they go out and they stand for us, that helps us immensely because, quite frankly, our volunteers can't call someone by name and say, hey, put some money in the pot. But some of these people with the different groups, they can challenge their friends, hey, help us out a little bit more. So we actually collect more when we have service groups out there. So if we get more of those, we would be grateful for next year.
Is there any age requirement for volunteering for the Salvation Army? Do you have to be 18, or can high school kids do it, that type of thing?
High school kids can do it. We prefer at least 14 years old and up. Now, if kids are younger out there, that usually means their parents somewhere around within an arm's length or a little bit around, that we have them out standing with them.
What, you know, as we head into, we're in January now and it's cold out, and what are the biggest needs for the Salvation Army right now?
Of course, what we do is we put on our fence mittens and hats and stuff like that we give out for free. Again, stuff for the shelter is always a need. Canned goods and things like that, we still could use that type of stuff. There's so much, anything anyone can give that would be useful, we can use it.
Well, great. What's the best way for people to contact you or to contact the Salvation Army in Belmont County?
Now, we are on Facebook. It's a little complicated. It's Belmont County, Belair, Ohio Salvation Army. They can go there and just like us, and then they can contact us through that, or call us at our office, which is 740-676-6225.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. Major, thanks so much for the work that you do here in the community, and thanks so much for being here on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Blessings.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
A world of Christmas wonder awaits at Ogilvy in Wheeling, West Virginia. Experience the magic of the season.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and we'll start in the city of Pittsburgh, where the Steelers' season has come to an end with an 8-8 record. Of course, the Steelers sat there with that record of 8-5 and looked to be, you know, they were in control of their playoff destiny, and dropped the last few games there to Buffalo, and then at the Jets, at the Ravens, and, you know, couldn't even beat Baltimore with Lamar Jackson and company sitting out. And the bottom line is just not enough offense. I mean, you know, scoring, you know, one touchdown a game over the last half of the season, basically, on offense just isn't going to get it done in the NFL. And, you know, of course, the Steelers missing their franchise quarterback throughout the season, and Ben Roethlisberger after he went out in Game 2. They were my pick to win the Super Bowl this year, maybe a little bit of a, obviously, my team type pick. But nonetheless, I really did think the Steelers had enough firepower to do it, and perhaps they would have. You know, the way the defense played throughout the season maybe would have been enough, having Ben Roethlisberger healthy, maybe having a healthy James Conner and some of the other guys, you know, Juju banged up for a while. And Juju Smith-Schuster just really didn't have the type of season that people thought he might have, being the #1 guy with Antonio Brown being gone. But, you know, now it's kind of back to the drawing board for the Steelers. What type of changes we made in the offseason? You got to think perhaps the Steelers, you know, try to get a running back, you know, a stud running back. I mean, James Conner, while I like him, just is not available a lot of the time due to injuries. And, you know, he's had a couple of torn MCLs in his career. Obviously, he's overcome a battle with cancer. And, you know, you look at that, and I think that he could be a great backup running back and really be a fantastic one. But in terms of carrying the load on the day-to-day basis, I'm just not sure he could do it. So now, you know, do you go out and draft a running back? Some guys, you know, like Swift from Georgia available in the draft, J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, and others, you know, Najee Harris from Alabama, Wisconsin's running back Taylor. I mean, some really good running backs will be available in this draft. But, of course, the Steelers don't pick until the second round. They use this year's first-round pick in a trade to the Miami Dolphins to acquire Minkah Fitzpatrick. A lot of people at the time were upset with the Steelers for giving up that first-round pick, but that turned out to be great. If you were to say now, hey, you use your first-round pick to get a great all-pro safety, you take it. So that Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, well worth it, but the Steelers will not have a first-round pick this year. So maybe looking in the second round, third round for a running back. Tight end seems to be a need. Vance McDonald, another guy that's injured a lot. So, you know, how long do you hang on to him? The offensive line isn't getting any younger. I mean, those guys have been around for a while. So maybe also perhaps adding some guys on the offensive line. But overall, you know, obviously disappointing season for the Steelers with what they thought were going to happen. So now we turn to the playoffs. And, you know, before the year, as I said, I picked the Steelers over the Packers in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to have to revise that pick now. I'm going to, I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to go with the Baltimore Ravens. With the way they've looked this year, the way Lamar Jackson's played, with the number of guys on that team that are just performing at a high level, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win it. And I guess, you know, I'll stick with the Green Bay Packers in the NFC since they're still alive, and that was my preseason pick. I'm not sure how much my heart believes they're going to get to the Super Bowl now, but I'm going to stick with them since that was my preseason pick. But, you know, I think a lot of teams in the NFC, you know, a lot of teams could come out of there. 49ers look good. Seattle looks good. New Orleans looks good. But I'll stick with Ravens over Packers at this point. Let's talk WVU basketball for a minute, something that is a little bit exciting. And, you know, the Mountaineers now coming off some big wins, including knocking off number 2 ranked Ohio State. And the Mountaineers have that one loss up at St. John's at Madison Square Garden, and, you know, really were right in that game till the very end and could have won it. But, you know, the thing that's an oddity, if you look at the AP poll when it came out this week, so the Mountaineers, you know, and Ohio State came in that game with one loss each, and then the Mountaineers win, and you look at the standings in the AP after that game, and Ohio State drops to 5th. WVU's at 16th. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, you have that head-to-head matchup and similar records, but so be it. WVU had that win in the Holiday Classic Thanksgiving down in Mexico, and apparently it just doesn't mean a whole lot. The good news is it doesn't mean a whole lot in basketball because, you know, everybody gets a chance to get in. You get to play your way into the tournament. But I think it does affect the selection committee where those AP rankings are at the end of the year. So you like to see a team ranked highly. But, you know, WVU has some big games coming up. They're going to play Kansas, highly ranked. They're going to play Texas Tech, who's coming off of a great season last year and doing okay again this year. So some big games coming up for the Mountaineers will be fun to watch. And how about, speaking of college sports, college football, LSU just thumping Oklahoma in the playoff semifinal. Joe Burrow with a record-type day. And then Ohio State loses to Clemson. You know, Ohio State looked like they were going to win that game, and Clemson comes roaring back. Now setting up LSU versus Clemson, 2 undefeated teams, both Tigers. We'll talk more about that game next week. And for all those folks wondering whether these other bowl games really matter, they seem to sure matter to the players. You look at Georgia beat Baylor, Alabama over Michigan, Notre Dame over Iowa State, Penn State over Memphis. So all these teams, people are saying, hey, do they really care about being in these games because they're not in the playoffs? Well, those teams sure did, even though you may think a Memphis, a Baylor, and an Iowa State would really get up for playing teams that maybe they don't normally play. But those teams, sure enough, got up. So we'll talk more college football championship game next week on the show. Thanks for tuning in this week. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next time on The Jamie Bordas Show.